Zach and his wife moved into their new town, after Zach has been chosen by the church to be one of their pastor. They are welcomed by a neighbor called Jennifer. The couple asks about the house next door and Jennifer says the person who lives there isn't very friendly to the rest of the neighborhood. Zach wants to be the one who convert the mysterious neighbor. The next day, Amber goes knocking on the mysterious neighbor's house with her son Alex. The man opens the door with a cold look. Amber offers him some chocolate as a welcome gift. Alex says the chocolate are to convince him to come to church. Amber is embarrassed and the man, which name is Felix, understands the true motive of this visit. Days go by and Zach begins his pastor duties at the church. Zach is still determined on bringing Felix to his church. One day, Zach decides to talk to Felix. When noticing him outside, he tries to do some small talk. Felix tells him to make his wife bring more cookies like she promised, every week. He also adds to come alone as he doesn't like children. Zach gets freaked out by the encounter. He warns his wife not to come closer to him. But Amber thinks he is exaggerating. While talking to his wife, the stressed Zach loses controls after brakes having issues and crashes his car. Thankfully he is fine. That evening, Felix comes to Amber from behind with an empty plate. He keeps looking at her in her hot tub. He reminds her he told her husband to bring more cookies. The nice Amber offers Felix to come in the hot tub anytime. He removes his shirt immediately and is ready to join her. She then gets uncomfortable as he joins her in the hot tub. Felix tells her he just wants to ask her questions about the church. He accepts to give Christianity another chance. He keeps telling her how beautiful she is. Zach finally arrives and Amber immediately jumps out of the water. Zach looks at Felix with intensity and tells him to leave immediately. He is furious at his wife for what happened. But Amber gives Felix the benefit of the doubt, saying he is just looking for the right path. Zach asks her not to hang out with him when he is not at home. Felix finally attends the church during one of Zach's speeches. He keeps looking around in a weird way. After it, Zach finds him outside and Felix expresses his concerns. At this moment, Brittany, his assistant, comes to pull Zach aside for an urgent matter. Amber is surprised as she never heard of Brittany, but Zach reassures her she is just his assistant. That urgent matter takes him the entire day, and when he comes home that night, Amber confronts him about Brittany. She felt her having a crush on him. Zach comforts his wife that she is the only one in his life. Zach then is happy he convinced Felix to have a meeting on Tuesday. Amber reminds him it's their anniversary. Zach is really committed in bringing God to people and unfortunately cannot find any other day available that week. Tuesday arrives and Zach meets with Felix. Felix tells him how awful his book is. He is more interested in the parts where Amber is mentioned. Zach tries to preach to Felix, but Felix is very uncomfortable with dark voices in his head. All he cares about is talking about Amber, saying she deserves to be loved. Zach tells his wife he is moving on. He gives up on Felix. But Amber gets mad at him, reminding him he is a pastor, he shouldn't give up on anybody. The next day, Felix meets them and says he is sorry he made them miss their anniversary dinner. Zach wonders how does he know that. He leaves for work. Felix takes this opportunity to offer some flowers to Amber. He adds that his father cheated on his mom with his secretary, which installs doubts in Amber's mind. Meanwhile, Brittany receives some flowers. The next day, the couple dresses up and goes out for their anniversary dinner. They meet Felix. He wants to come with them. Zach had enough and tells him to back off, finding strange he wants to invite himself to their anniversary dinner. The following day, Felix apologizes and tells them he has a gift for them he will be bringing later. Hours later, he brings them a mirror that belonged to his grandmother. He insists on hanging it up himself. Zach refuses, but after many tries they let him do that while they are gone. That night, the couple comes back to the mirror in their bedroom. The next day, Felix attends Zach's sermon at the church. Zach takes him aside and confronts him about the flirty note he left to Amber. But Felix accuses him of having an affair with Brittany. Zach gets angry and pushes Felix in front of everybody, screaming to stay away from his wife and to never come back to church. Later that day, Jennifer visits Amber. She reveals they found out Zach has been sending flowers with notes to Brittany. Amber is shocked. She goes to Brittany in tears, reminding they have a son together. She begs her not to ruin her marriage. Brittany says they never did anything. She adds that it's weird because Zach has been sending those flowers, but when they are together he is the opposite, all business. More flowers arrive at the church. Pastor James calls the flower shop saying to stop accepting Zach sending those flowers, but the receptionist tells him they are sent from the house next door, pretending to be Zach. Meanwhile, Zach goes to ask a mechanic to look at his brakes, having suspicions about what happened to him. The mechanic confirms his car has indeed been sabotaged. Amber can't find her son. She goes to Felix's house to search for him. But inside, she finds the many hidden cameras Felix put in their house, including in the mirror. Felix then appears. Amber hears her son laughing in the basement. Felix opens the door and threatens Amber. Felix isn't happy the way Zach talks behind his back, but loves how Amber defends him. Felix let them leave. Amber immediately finds the hidden cameras in her house and break it. Felix then knocks on her door and Amber grabs a knife. Felix breaks in and knocks her out. Minutes later, Zach arrives and Alex tells him Felix took her. Meanwhile, Felix brings her to an abandoned church building, holding a knife to Amber. Felix remembers his childhood. Zach bursts in with a gun pointing. Amber screams for help but ends kicking Felix and running to Zach's side. Felix tells him to go ahead and press the button. Zach refuses and Felix is tired of what he believes to be his pastor act. Zach still tries to convert Felix, saying that God loves him. To go further in preaching, Zach drops his weapon and goes to hug Felix. But Felix attacks him. Amber runs away. When she turns around, she witnesses Felix beating up Zach. Felix then finds her, but Amber gets angry and knocks him out. She goes to check on Zach, but Felix tries to finish her from behind. But Zach tackles him and beat him up. He then stops trying to save Felix, but it's too late. Days go by and Zach is affected by what happened to Felix. He questions a lot about himself. Pastor James tries to comfort him, saying that what happened that day wasn't his fault. Zach believes he is not worth preaching. Zach decides to leave the church. 2 years go by. Zach is working at a mechanic shop. He takes his lunch break. A fellow worker named Johnny introduces himself to him. He tells him he is the hardest worker here, but never spoke to anybody or smiled. He wants to know his story. Johnny tells him he feels like Zach did something he regrets. He preaches to him that he doesn't have to be perfect to be loved by God. He just have to be willing and obedient. This shakes Zach inside, who is thoughtful.